So, are you ready to completely hate your existence? Well, this is the lesson for you then, because this one is about adding and subtracting rational numbers, and of course, rational means fractions. We're dealing with some fractions here. I love fractions. Why don't you love fractions also? Okay, so rational numbers. These are the fractions. You're going to be missing your integers today. Fractions, things like 1/2, 3/4. A mixed number. A mixed number has a fractional component along with an integer component. So maybe something like -3 1/5. Or positive 2.5. Improper fractions. Improper fractions that are fractions that are top heavy. They're bigger on top than the bottom. So we've got something like, I don't know, 10/3. This guy could be turned into a mixed number. I would divide it in. 3 goes into 10 3 times with a remainder of 1. Common denominator. Remember, the denominator is the bottom part of a fraction. So if I have 1/5 and 2/5, they have a common denominator. The common denominator is 5. And a Mr. Barr original, the fancy one. 5/5 is a fancy 1. It's the same thing as a 1. I can also make a fancy one of maybe 8/8. That's a 1. Pick anything over anything. 107/107. Those are fancy ones. We will use the fancy ones to build common denominators. Subtract, simplify your answer, and write it as a proper fraction or as a whole or mixed number. I'm looking at 1/10 minus 2/5. Problem is, these guys cannot interact because they do not have a common denominator. I want a common denominator. I have a 10. I'm always going to go up to that common denominator. How can I turn a 5 into a 10? Well, if I multiplied it by 2, it would turn into a 10. But I can't just hit it with a 2. I have to hit it with a fancy 1 that's a 2. There we go. 2/5 is the same thing as 4/10. Now I can do the subtraction. I have the common denominator of 10. So I have to do 1 minus 4. 1 minus 4 is -3. So this is -3 tenths. -3 tenths. So I use a fancy 1 to build the common denominator. Once I have the common denominator, I can do the subtraction. This guy's a little bit different. I have a 1/4 minus 4/5. Well, the denominators have to be the same. I need to push both of these numbers up to a bigger number that will be the common denominator. Well, what number can a 5 fit into and a 4? Well, they both go into a 20. So let's push both of those up to a 20. I'll push this guy up to a 20 using a 4/4. I'll push this guy up to a 20 using a 5/5. This will give me 5/20 minus 16/20. Now I can actually do the subtraction. 5 minus 16 is negative 11. Common denominator is 20. So once again, I'm using fancy ones. This next one is a mess of a problem. First off, I do see a boom boom here, so I can take care of that right away. Boom boom. I'm looking at this. Two fifths and 17/20. That's going to take it up to 20. We can try. Okay, so here's what I'm contemplating. Do I want to turn these both into improper fractions and then work it that way? Or do I want to work the integers and then work the fractions and then try to combine that into a final answer? Let's see if we can work it as integers and fractions first. So we'll go 183. We're going to break it up into two pieces here. We have a 183 plus a 271. That's going to happen. And then we're going to have a 17/20 plus a 2/5. Let's see what happens here. Let's start with this. I need to take that 5 up to a 20, so I'll use a 4/4 to make that happen. My fancy one. So I have 17/20 plus 8/20, which is going to take me to 25/20, which becomes 20 goes into 25 one time, so it's 1 and 5/20 written as a mixed number. It was an improper fraction. I think there are too many P's there. So that takes it to a 1, and now I'm going to reduce that down to a 1 and 1/4. Okay, so all this fraction stuff becomes a 1 and 1/4. These integers become 454. So 454 plus the 1 and 1/4, which is going to take it to 455 and 1/4. Which I'm gonna. What is this? I don't even know which lesson I'm doing right now. I'm checking my answer. That's what I'm doing here. Yep, 455 and 1/4. Yep, there it is. Was that better than going into mixed numbers or improper fractions? I don't know. Okay, let's do one more. Once again, what do I want to do? There are a couple different ways of taking care of this. You can do 31 minus 17. We could write it like this. This would be 31 minus 17, but then we'd still have to take away or subtract a 1/5 off of that. So 31 minus 17 is that 14? 14 minus 1/5. Well, 14 minus 1/5, well, that's going to take me down to 13 and 4/5. What do you think of that? Or do you want to do it by going everything into 17 times 5? That's 50, 85, 86 fifths. right? 17 times 5 is 85. 85 plus the 1. Okay. And now I'll have to get a fancy 1, take this guy up to a 5 over 5. What I'm doing the same problem, but I'm converting everything into an improper fraction. 5 times 31, that's 155 over 5 minus 86 over 5. 55 minus 86. 155 minus 86, come off to the side here. Gives me 69 fifths. And now I have to take that improper fraction and turn it into a mixed number. So 69 divided by 5. 5 goes in there 1 time, 1, 9. 5 goes in there 3 times, 15, with a remainder of 4. Fractions, I told you, you were not going to like this one. And that's 11 minutes, fractions. Fortunately, you learned this somewhere else. This is a review, but I need you to be able to do fractions. Okay?